Hello, this is Jacob here again with another episode of Small Business Chat. Joins me today, Matt. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How you doing?
Doing great. We have a really great topic starting us off today, which is how to develop your team in your business organization. Either whether you're starting from scratch or you have an existing team, you maybe want to reorganize because things are just not going the way you expected for the year or for the foreseeable future. So you just want to try something new. This video is going to be for you. So Matt, I'm really excited to talk about this. I think this is very important for any business owner to talk about this or learn more about this because if you don't have a solid team, if you don't have a solid foundation, unless you're like a solo endeavor, which not everybody is. So I think this is very good listen here because again, it will help you build your team effectively.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can't scale without a team. Otherwise, you're just a person that, you don't run. What is the old adage? If you're just working by yourself, you don't have a business, you have a job. And so in order to convert your business from a job to a legitimate business, you've got to be able to scale. And by scaling, we need, hiring the right people and creating teams. And hopefully we'll be able to address that a little bit. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you've got to be able to hire people, as the old adage goes, get them on the bus and get them in the right seat on the bus. And that's the hallmark of good team building.
Yeah, exactly. And without a good team, then your company's going nowhere. We're also gonna we're going to talk about a few sore subjects. Sometimes it's not everyone's favorite subjects, which
Ow.
is sometimes where there's a certain employee that's just not cutting it, and there's just certain cuts that need to be made sometimes to make your business grow and to move efficiently. We're going to talk about those subjects again today, just so that we can just again, those are sore subjects, so maybe we can provide some information to make it a little bit easier. So first step of the process is to define your vision and mission. The vision and missions, is really very important because you want to have a good outline of how you want to organize your business moving forward from the get-go. So you just don't want to just wake up one day, get into the office and just demand everyone to change and demand everyone to just do what you want. You want to have a clear cut, either it's on paper or on Word document, or just you just planned out some other format that you want to wherever works for you to kind of start out with. So having a vision statement, more like just will describe will have long-term results for your company and your efforts, and it will provide a great direction and inspiration for your company's future. And a good mission statement will outline the purpose of your company, and it'll achieve your vision more correctly. And it'll also address things that you want to do or what you want your company to do and how you want to do it differently. By clearly identifying and articulating your vision and mission will help you attract new individuals to your company. Will also, obviously, with the people that you direct within your company, the better your company is, the more traffic you're going to get from customers. So you definitely want to share your goals and your values while also creating a cohesive and a motivated team all at the same time. Matt, what do you have to add in on that?
Ooh, that's a lot. And so, I think from what I take out of what you just said was a couple of key points, which is number one, got to map out what it is what you want your company to look like 5 years from now. And that includes an organizational chart. And then next, as the great Jack Welch of GE fame, would say, you have to basically align your people's interests with the company's interests, but you can't align anything if you don't actually have them. So what you need to do is sit down, tell them where the company's going, and tell them, how they're going to get there and what's in it for them. And I think that's very key. And, again, as someone who's far more intelligent than I am, articulated that and being Jack Welch. But, just getting back to, the original thing, a little personal story, again, we have gone through several iterations here at the trademark company, original law firm, and then we went to a filing firm and things of that nature. But when we actually converted over back in 2016, to your point, one of the first things that I did was I looked at, how we had been structured. And obviously a structure of a law firm is completely different than of other businesses because lawyers have to take a larger role and are required by law to do certain tasks. And When you have a company that's not a law firm, really you can just create a normal, hierarchy chart. And I just sat down, I said, okay, this is where I want us to be in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. And, it may almost sound silly, but, you simply say, let's take our typical t-shirt example, t-shirt company example. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Well, I'm doing all the silk screening myself. I'm doing the marketing at night. I'm doing this. I'm doing, right? A lot of I'm doing. But how do you go from I'm doing to that person on the team is doing? Well, the first thing is to figure out what are the roles in the company that you're going to need to grow it. And it's not a bad thing in this context to make that pyramid looking thing. Now, you're, as the entrepreneur, going to be on top of that pyramid, but eventually, you map out, okay, here's the marketing, here's the operations, or the, how you get the product to the consumer, and here's the sales team. So when you first start off, your name may be on that organizational chart more than once. But then as you grow it and add different things below it, different, levels, and it spreads out, that's where you want to start inserting people. So to what you had said when you directed it to me here, it's sort of basically like, so go ahead and create that organizational chart, even if you control or wear all of the hats in the organization initially. But then as you are growing the company, hire people to go into those slots. Now, we've previously talked about make sure you have a training manual like a franchise. So you say, listen, this is what we need to do. For instance, marketing. You're in charge of our Google AdWords account now, or our Microsoft ads, or our email marketing, whatever it is, but they need to have a step-by-step process. You hire them, you delegate it, and you continue to grow the company. Perhaps then you hire a sales team. It fills in that slot. You get so many salespeople that they need a manager. You fill in, you just continue to build that pyramid. But when you speak about it, map it out. It is not, and I repeat this, not a silly thing to do, even the first day of business. Actually, you should be mapping it out way before you start business, because that is your vision. So I'm going to pause there and just say, do you have anything to throw in there before we talk about vision and getting the actual people on the bus for your vision?
Well, I actually had a really good question while I'm thinking of it. How do you identify like who would be best in your company to fill those roles? Like, say for example, is if you're wanting to, a lot of your time is directed as an owner is towards a certain project. You don't have enough time as you previously had to work on, like, say, Google Ads or Microsoft Ads or marketing, whichever. How do you identify somebody in your company more like to fill that role? Is that something you see within somebody? Is that something you carefully select? Is there a process to that at all, Matt?
I will tell you, I'm in the minority of this. And I believe, and so you're talking about a situation where maybe someone's not on the right seat on the bus. So again, hire the right people, get them on your bus, so to speak, but then make sure that they're in the right seat on the bus. And so taking just a step back, I think the hiring process in general has become so much more complex for employers in this day and age, because although I love Indeed and other platforms where you hire online, you tend to get a lot more. In my era, when I saw a job ad, I would craft a specific letter. I would basically say, this is why I am perfect for that job. And I really wanted that particular job. And maybe I would apply to 1, 2, 3, or 4 jobs a week. In today's day and age, with Indeed and these other online platforms, Monster, whatever else is out there, employees or prospective employees can just point and click a mouse and apply to 50 jobs at a time. I've literally talked to someone and said, okay, well, tell me about what did you like about the company online? And they're like, oh, I have no idea who you work for. I'm like, wait, you're interviewing with me for a position with my company and you don't even know who I am? You can imagine that conversation didn't go on much further from that point. But so getting them on the bus is hard enough. It's a little bit hard in this day and age. But then, like what you're saying, I just want to preface this like, well, how do we know they're on the right seat on the bus once they're on your bus? Um, I'm in the minority, coming back to how I started this. Whereas I think that you have to come on board and you have to excel it no matter what I give at you. I give to you. And in a hyper rare instance, perhaps we hire somebody who's a great person, but they just weren't a right fit for that job. And so we feel like, your skill set would actually fit better over in this department of the company or otherwise. My philosophy has always been more along the lines of I like to hire winners, and winners win no matter what happens. That's been my philosophy since day one. You know, quoting The Rock, excuse me, the movie from The Rock, losers always whining about doing their best. Winners go home and the prom queen. And I just love that line. And so I personally believe that when you hire someone who is a solid employee, they're going to be a solid employee no matter what you do for them. Now, is there an instance, and again, I believe I'm in the minority on that. You may see that they're putting in great effort, but maybe their skill set wasn't exactly what you thought. And so that, in that regard, you don't want to lose this person. We have absolutely done that at the trademark company. And then you slide them into another role and then they have excelled. So again, can you move them once they've been hired for one thing? I think yes, so long as it's not an effort issue. Because once you identify an effort issue, we all know what happens in, most companies. Goodbye. Make sure they're in that right slot and give them the opportunity to grow within the actual company, so long as it's within that company's vision.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think I've beaten that dead horse.
No. You've
Okay.
I think you edited it perfectly. Again, that encompasses our first step here, which is a vision and mission for your company's growth. I also wanted to share a little story about, since you've touched upon, not necessarily just letting somebody go unless there is a effort issue, because if there's an effort issue, no matter what role you're going to put them in, they're just not going to succeed. But because it's just, no matter where you put them, it's just not going to clash with whatever role that they're trying to fit. So I have a story. I used to manage this one team, and there was a person that was on the sales department. I was working in the customer service department, and we had one person from the sales team that just joined, and they were working for about maybe a month in the department. And we restructured that person because they were great effort wise. They would put out so many phone calls per day. They would like call over 50, 60 people. So the effort was there, had a really great voice over the phone, but the numbers just weren't hitting where they were supposed to hit. But the personality was there, and just the way that they kind of approached the position was just spot on for what you want in an employee. It's just
Yeah.
that the results just weren't there. But
Yeah.
instead of just letting them go, just calling them a bad salesperson and then just letting them out the door, we restructured them to the customer service department, and right now they're one of the best customer service or filing agents that we have at our company currently. And
I just got who you were talking about. I'm sorry. The whole time I've been sitting here thinking, like, who the heck is he talking about? Is it here at the
you
trademark
figured out the
company? But I'm
puzzle.
just like, when you said that, I'm just like, bing, I knew exactly who you were talking about. Okay, yeah, yeah, she's doing
Exactly.
fantastic for us.
Yeah, she's doing amazing. And if we would have just chalked it up to they're a bad salesperson, we would have never have had this type of person working for us today, and we'd have lost out on so much potential if you just slow down as a business owner and just kind of collect your thoughts without just looking at the results, just saying, hey, this person's not good for us, this is not good for our sales. And just instead of looking at that, look at the effort, because if there's effort there, you just need to restructure. If there's no effort there, and the results still aren't the greatest, then definitely let that person go. But if the effort's at least there, it's worth saving. So that's the
Yeah.
first step. We definitely at this point, I think, beat that one with like a dead horse. So
Believe it or not, can I beat the dead horse just slightly more?
he's barely living. He's turning into a
He's
zombie.
barely,
Go
I'll make
ahead.
it brief. I promise. I'm gonna kick the crap out of this horse right now. You ever think about that? You ever think about the poor horse and exactly what are they talking about? I mean, who the heck's beating a dead horse? But I guess it involves basically like they're talking about like getting the horse to run faster, and you can't beat a dead horse. But maybe they just meant tired horse. I don't know. But anyways, the other thing was just very briefly, and again to my draconian ways, is also though to inspire people. So for instance, you do have that employee that basically is maybe a master. So we talk about a negative way, but well, they weren't fitting and such. But maybe the employee just wants to actually change seats on the bus after a while. And we all know, there are certain people in this world that are thrilled with doing the exact same job for 30 years. I think that's almost a dying concept. Turning the same screw on a Detroit assembly line or something like that. So long as they're making a good wage, they're happy, et cetera, et cetera. But I think I'm seeing more and more in this generation, people, even if they're excellent at something, after about 2 years, they're like, yeah, okay, what's next? And I think that's the other thing that employers have to be savvy over, which is, especially if, people are, either didn't go to college or are right out of college or whatnot, they're always going to be looking for their what's next. And that is one of the other things that then you need to be able to structure in your company, basically be like, okay, so if you do this job extraordinarily well, I don't want to lose you because you're just a great employee. So you need to be able to be flexible enough to say, okay, I'm going to move you up the chain or move you to a different seat because you want to change seats. I'd rather you change seats on my bus than get on somebody else's. Back at you.
Beep beep. Awesome. Well, that's great, Matt. Also, you talked about pyramids before. This is going off on a really weird subject, but not weird, but just a different one. Have you ever seen that movie Stargate before? With Kurt Russell and what's his name? Kevin, what's his name? Have you ever seen that movie before? Stargate?
I've seen parts of it. Yeah. And we're not talking about like a bad Bernie Madoff pyramid, but go ahead. Yeah. What about Stargate?
No, not a business one related. But no, it's a really good movie. You should check it out. I just thought of it when you were talking about pyramids. It is a really great movie if you haven't watched it all the way through. I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but
Yeah.
it's basically like time travel and not time travel, actually. It's actually like some sort of portal to like another dimension that gets discovered in Egypt. Very cool movie.
Wow.
One of my
Wow.
favorite actors
Because,
is in it, Kurt Russell and everything. So yeah, you should definitely check it out.
because
Anyway.
I've been confused so many times with Kurt Russell. I can't even tell you how many times people walk up to me, they're like, "Are you Kurt Russell?" I'm like, "No." I'm
You get
kidding. I've
that a
never
lot?
been confused for Kurt Russell. No, no, no.
Speaking of also Kurt Russell, I watched a movie the other day that apparently a lot of people are like, if you like Kurt Russell, you're gonna love that movie, Escape from New York. Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah, like the original one. Yeah, yeah,
Original
that was a
one,
good
yeah.
one
Yeah,
when he
I
was
watched that.
young.
It was really, really sweet watch.
And if you love Kurt Russell, I strongly recommend watching Monarch. It's the basically prequel to Godzilla, the really good Godzilla that they made a couple years, and it's a series. I think it's either on Netflix or Amazon Prime. But it is fantastic. It's about 8 episodes about how they like are locating like how they realize Godzilla, but Kurt Russell is also in that. He does a really good job.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, in my opinion, my favorite Kurt Russell movie is The Hateful Eight. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have. It's good. I like it.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. So, alrighty, so
Backdraft.
let's
Backdraft
go.
for me.
Backdraft is a good one. Is that the firefighter movie?
Yep, one of my favorite. I have to watch that every spring. It's just one of my favorite movies of all time. Love that movie.
Awesome.
Yep. Anyways,
Alrighty, so let's
sorry.
jump over to our next step here, which is setting clear objectives and expectations. So I think we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier about how to identify which person needs to go with which role. Also just you want to define which role meets their best qualities, and then have their responsibilities be clearly met and also understood so that they can contribute effectively. Also, you want to measure their goals, make sure that you're not setting somebody up for failure. You definitely don't want to do that, because if you set up somebody with too big of a role, then they're going to fail again, and then they're just going to feel defeated at the end of the day. Now you don't know what to do with them, right? So just make sure if you do set them up for a goal, make sure you clearly state exactly what their goal is. Make sure you set their expectations, and also, which doesn't hurt at all, track their progress, and ensure their accountability through that. So just, for example, if there's a certain amount of for example, going back to that first person I was talking about that moved within our company. They moved over to the customer service department, and they file applications with us now for trademarks, right? So maybe that measurement should be detecting how many filings that they make every single week or day or month or whichever. So kind of having a good structure, setting out a goal for them, just how you would a salesperson, but make it so that it's within the customer service department. Any smaller big time goal will help. So that's the next step. Next step after that is to develop a strong employer's brand. So building a good reputation in the first place. This involves just having a good positive work culture, right? And then you want to build a good reputation as such that will basically not only help people who are already within the business, be happy and be happy working with you, but also bring in new employees as well. Maybe it's certain employees will leave at your company at some point, and then maybe leave a great review on Indeed for you or LinkedIn, and then that will help bring in new traffic to your business for future employees to work for you. So I think that's a really strong subject we could touch upon, Matt, which again is having a great work culture. Whether, Matt, you just brought us in Chick-fil-A biscuits or Chick-fil-A nuggets, whatever those were. That's a great start to our day, or anybody's start, especially if you work in the office and you have a work from in the office setup, is to just maybe bring food for your employees to start off the day, or even coffee to get everyone's day going. I think that's a really great way to kind of show your appreciation for your employees, and I know the employees appreciate it. I do.
Yeah.
um,
Well,
and
yeah.
and
So you got,
mhm.
yeah, unpacking this, so you got a bunch of stuff to chat on, which is like, so first of all, goals, holding them to it and gives them sort of a purpose and such. And then the culture, which is, I think culture is sort of two parts, which is, number one, aligning everyone, just like Jack Welch said at the, as I mentioned here, aligning everyone's interests together, and, what is your mission statement, et cetera. And then, but also making it sort of a fun and an enjoyable place to work. And we'll get back to that in a second. But I do think that, like, again, we've talked about this when we did Gen Z versus Gen X a couple podcasts ago. And the younger generation really does expect a little bit more out of their workplace, I think, than my generation did. And the generation before mine was just like, yeah, I'm here to get a paycheck. And then I'm sort of like, I'm here to get a paycheck, but I want that paycheck to be 20 times the paycheck. But I'm willing to work 23 hours a day for that. And then, and as we continue forward and move forward, every generation is different. There's nothing to malign about anyone and such, but let's get back to the whole goal setting thing before we get too far ahead of ourselves. It's fascinating because, one of the things that as a new or fledgling business owner, you may or may not realize is it's really important to actually hold your people accountable. And you may think it's a negative thing, but employees actually want feedback. They want accountability by nature. They want to know that they're doing a good job or what they can do to do a better job, especially the quality employees that you want to stick around. A quality employee doesn't mind having those goals set out for them at the end or at the beginning of the week, month, day, whatever it is. And then so because they have something that they're focusing on. I'll tell you a little story about myself. And I always thought this was sort of a little bit of wizardry. It's true. Not many people know this. After I graduated high school, before I matriculated to my college, I always worked during the summers. As from the time I think I was about 13 years old, I always had a summer job. But for this one particular one, I worked at a store called The Limited. And I think it was called Structure when I worked there. Basically, it's the male limited store. And, and they would give you a goal of selling so much, so much clothing per day and per week. And I can always remember, like, you're supposed to get a big biz, and what the heck's a big biz? Like, I think it was a sale of $500 or more. And remember, this is 1989 when I worked there, the summer of 1989 in the Palm Beach Gardens Mall in Florida. And I was amazed at how by setting goals for your employee, you had something to aim for and you would fight for that big biz. And do you know what you would get if you actually got a big biz, Jacob? What do you think you got if you got a big biz? What huge trip to Mexico? What do you think?
I would say Hawaii.
Trip to Hawaii. They would raise your hourly salary by like 3 cents if you got like a
That's
big
it.
biz. Yeah. So it takes and I think it was just for like that week. So in other words, if you work like 20 hours that week and you got a big biz sale, they would do 3 cents times 20 hours. I don't know. You guys are the mathematicians out there. You can figure it out. But it just really wasn't. I mean, it's like, really? But because you had goals, you were so focused on those goals, it sort of made like working there sort of more like a game. And I think that's sort of important. Like, again, you don't see it in accounting and all that sort of stuff. Accountants just come in and I don't know, most accountants are just a different breed, but they just pound through their, their roles, and they're very, inside the box type of people. But with a sales team, that's really easy. I mean, you set goals, and so what's the alignment? Skipping forward to that third thing that we needed to talk about, which is aligning the company's interest. Well, the more sales you make, the bigger bonus you get. The more sales you make, the bigger bonus you get, the more people we're able to actually help in accomplishing the company's mission. Now, whether or not that's a great connection through that mission statement or not, and by the way, that wasn't the mission statement, but that's up for debate. But when we just simply talk about the importance of goal setting, you have to be able to articulate the standard to which an employee will be judged, because then when they come to you and they say, hey, I want a raise, or I want a bigger bonus, or this, you can point to the goals and say, okay, well, I don't want to lose you because you've hit all your goals. Imagine for a second you didn't have any goals. You wouldn't even know if people were doing their jobs. I don't know. How many sales did we make? I don't know. Did he hit his goal? What goal? We didn't have a goal. I don't know. How many shoes did you make this month if you're in a shoe factory? I don't know. We didn't have any goals. Well, let's set a goal of 100 pairs of shoes to make. Okay. How many shoes did he make? 110 pairs of shoes. Oh, he did 110% of what he needed to do. Fantastic. That young man deserves a raise. So it is absolutely important, but also it gives the employees something to strive for. But also what you said is it's got to be realistic. So let's assume for a second, Chick-fil-A person working the counter has got a goal of selling 27 chicken sandwiches on a given day. And Chick-fil-A's marketing team only gets one person coming in that day. They ain't going to sell 27 chicken sandwiches. So it's all got to work together. So the goal setting has to be in line with what is reasonable given how marketing's doing, how sales are going and such, which you can reasonably expect those employees to hit that goal. Because if you set goals that are constantly beyond the employee, you actually end up diminishing their actually enjoyment of their jobs, which leads to them walking out on your business at some juncture, even if they're a fantastic employee, right?
Exactly. And I actually have a really good involving what you're talking about with goals and identifying and having those goals set for those folks that need them. But also, I think another thing to add on top of, again, this is all involving building a great work culture, is healthy competition. And I think this will go not far with only just your business,
Yeah.
so, but also within the employees themselves, right? And I'm going to take from a good story within one of my favorite books of all time. If you're a business owner, there's a couple of books that you should add to your book list, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And then my favorite number one book of all time is How to Win Friends and Influence Others by Dale Carnegie. Without a doubt, definitely my favorite book of all time. You need to reread as a business owner. You should reread that book at least 3 or 4 times. I also listen to it on my way to work sometimes. But one of the stories within that book, which again teaches you how to approach circumstances in a different way with your business, and to kind of come out of it the other side. And one of the greatest stories is it talks about a line worker, and it doesn't go into detail exactly what they're making, but it's in a factory, right? And the factory owner is getting behind on orders. They're not getting enough orders fulfilled, whatever the case may be. The company's not doing it the best that they could, and the owner's about to fire the manager very soon. So the manager starts to think about what else they could do within the business. They're thinking about maybe just letting some people go to kind of help in that category. That'll bring in some extra money there from firing a few folks, but then that'll decrease line efficiency, and a whole bunch of stuff that they could try that way. They could try a bunch of things, but the one thing that the manager thinks, instead of firing people and trying to look in different directions, they start bringing in healthy competition. And they did it in a way to where that it was really smart. The way that he kind of represented this is when they're making things in the factory, there's a certain number that they need to hit, which is like, say, for example, 11, let's just say it was like 11 shoes being made, or 11 TVs being made, or whichever the case may be, right? That day, the manager, when everyone was out of the store, or out of the factory in this case, everyone's gone for the day, the manager's closing up, he gets a chalk marker or whatever what he used to draw on the floor, and he draws a big number on the ground, and it says 12. He just draws a huge number, 1 2, right? And when the factory employees come in the next day, they look at the number, they're like, 12, I can beat 12. And because the way that the factory is divided is there's 2 separate teams. There's one team that handles this type of shoe, and the other side of the factory helps with the other types of shoes. So now that they started with 12, it makes it seem like that one side put down 12 to make it seem like the other factory, part of the factory, can try to beat that. So the owner did that in a way as kind of like starting some sort of healthy competition within the company. And now that other side of the factory is looking at 12 and we're like, we could beat 12. And so they actually, the other side of the company beats 13, and they were on their side of the factory line 13. And then the other factory, part of the factory, looks at their number and they look at theirs and they're like, wow, we can beat 13. And then the next day they do 14. And then the next, the other side does 15, and then 16, and then 17. And it keeps going from there. And that all started from just literally the factory owner just having that idea one day of just starting healthy competition. And now the line in the factory is doing more and has been being more profitable with their line output. So that's a
So
really
tomorrow I'm putting up the number for the various sales teams here at the company. It's going right up on. I'm like, yeah, here we go. But I think that's
exactly.
actually a really cool thing. Um, I'll double down on what you just said. And I'm going to tell a story as well. And I'm mindful of the time because we got about, just a couple minutes left here. But healthy competition is absolutely critical, and not unhealthy competition. As much as I would like to joke that I would like to be the Joker from The Dark Knight, break the pool cue in half and basically we're aggressively expanding and throw it down to two guys. And basically the implication is whoever, kills the other guy can join his team. And like I always love, stuff like that. But the reality is, and here's a story of unhealthy competition from this company. Several years ago, when we had a significant amount of turnover in our sales team, we had a young woman who was, to be candid with you, a very good salesperson who took over a lot of major accounts. And that was great. But the problem was is she, was a little bit manic, we'll just say. I think it's a very nice way to say it. And so she would stomp down other salespeople because she had to be the top dog 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to the point that there was almost no sale. You couldn't have sales competition. Imagine coming in, Jacob, we have sales competitions here all the time, and such, and coming in, but just knowing that this one salesperson either had to win it every day, or if she didn't win it, it was just like, man, you didn't even want to be in the office. There was so much yelling and screaming and stuff. And there was poor management on my part that I did not keep her under control more. At the time, we needed the sales because we were going through a very rough patch. But in the long run, ultimately, surprise, surprise, she left us. And it really sort of, gave us this, ability to really build back up a healthier sales environment in the company, because you're chasing short-term returns at the expense of long-term sales satisfaction and job satisfaction with an entire sales team versus one salesperson. So even if you get that one person that's a great salesperson in, you still need healthy competition, and they have to be encouraged that it's healthy competition. So to your analogy on the drawing of the chalkboard stuff, or excuse me, on the ground with it says in the numbers, that's great. It's just, you just don't want basically then like the other company, that company, like the one side trying to steal the other side's supply so they can make more. Like that's unhealthy competition, right? Like it's got to be, okay, everyone do the right way and all that sort of stuff, and let's all succeed as a group. And then getting to your final point, I'll throw it back to you as we wrap this up, but we do got to touch on culture, because I think culture is, in this day and age, arguably one of the most important factors. There's no doubt about it. It's clearly one of the most important factors in a company if you want to grow. People got to enjoy what they do. And you mentioned like the Chick-fil-A and all that sort of stuff. But, I can do stories about the cultural, swings in this company. But in general, you do have to have a good working culture. And I think that people need to be aligned with your vision. And I think that your vision has to be clearly communicated with them, and try to get this generation's employees excited about what you're doing. How do we do it here on the trademark company without going into specific mission statements or vision statements or anything like that? We get to wake up every morning and know that we help people with the American dream. And it's, been blessed to be doing this for 20 something years, despite challenges and, whatever is out there. And one of the things that hopefully gets out to our employees is, well, I'm a salesperson here, or I'm an operations person, or I'm in marketing, or, all the various teams that we have is, but, you can look back and you can look and say, okay, well, we helped Tom's Shoes get off the ground, but not for every Tom's Shoes and LA Gear that we brought back a couple years ago for and such like that. There's that mom and pop that's, just as important that we help them get their business off the ground. And, you know, you can go and you can sell fertilizer, Christmas lights, whatever it is you want to sell in your life, but you're impacting the economy when you come to work at the trademark company. You're impacting basically people's lives. You basically get to come together, and what you do really matters to people. And I've made my life out of doing this. And, you know, I'm blessed to have had you all to have joined us in this, I don't know, this journey, I can say, in this mission to basically help people to recognize their only own piece of the American pie. And I just, you know, just thank God every day that I've had and been blessed to actually be able to do that. I'm not sure what it is for everyone else out there, but making sure that your vision is relayed to your employees, and then how it's going to, you know, you're going to take them along with it while you have that fun culture, you know, breakfasts in the morning, you know, retreats like we have this Friday, you know, going to ball games, making work a little fun, sales competitions, operations competitions. Letting your people know you care about them is more important today than it ever has been in the history of businesses in the United States. What do you got to add? What do you think?
Yeah, I think all of those things are a great induction into a successful business moving forward with, again, we're talking about culture here, which is, we've talked about competition, we've talked about building healthy environment, and just identifying great roles within your company so everyone's happy. I think that's all of good things we've talked about. Also, before we go, I do want to just include another great thing you can try for your company. Now that we obviously at the end of the day, where we have involved sales within our business and also filing trademark applications, but this can really apply to any business, just depending on how your company's organized. Without it includes which team you have and everything. But we last April, or I think it was maybe 2 Aprils ago, we did it, but we did like a little Easter challenge, if you remember that, Matt, where we had
Yeah.
you got brought into like a ton of Easter eggs, and and depending on how many sales you made, or how many trademarks you filed, we even included our operations team in on it, that you got to open one of those eggs. And in one of those eggs could be a piece of chocolate. It could have been a gift card. It could have been, you know, leave 30 minutes early, get an extra day of PTO. You can make up your own, whichever. But it was a really great competition and a really great fun activity for everyone to be involved in, that just gave your everyone's month a great, like, extra little activity to make you happy, and also just make it a lot more fun with your job. So I think that's a really cool thing. If you ever want to try, if anyone that's listening right now wants to try that next Easter, I think we should probably bring it back next year. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, that should be an annual one. We actually missed it this year, but thank you. That was a fun one. But I told you, remember the challenge I had with that? I was like, I bought like it was like 600 Easter eggs, plastic Easter eggs, and I'm like filling them, and I got to about 250. And I'm like, okay, we're just gonna double the prizes. I can't fill 800. It's like do like all those hours to actually do that. But that was a cool one. I do like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, just things like that, whether it be, or it could be smaller, even for like either the day or the week, just coming up with little, again, healthy competitions for your team, so that they can just start out their day, and start out their week. Also, it's going to help you as a business owner, because, you know, the more competition that you involve, sometimes with, again, being healthy, is only going to help your business's end result, because
Yeah.
that will have everyone try just a little bit harder. Not saying that they don't try hard, it's just they'll make them try a little bit harder. So
Yeah, absolutely. So let me, if I may, I'm gonna try to do a decent job of sort of just bringing us down through where we've gone through. So when building a good team, you know, just remember, first of all, you know, map it out. Where do you want, you know, make your actual structure, your business organization, map it out, and then hire and delegate within that business map, or that, hierarchy chart. Make sure you have defined goals for everybody and hold them to them. Make sure that those goals are attainable and they are reasonable. Make sure that when you hire, you have basically, you align their interests with the company's interests through a mission statement or a vision statement, and build a really great culture. Keep it a little bit light, keep it a little bit fun, but just, you know, to really help your team out. How did I do in summarizing that?
that's, you touched upon every single one of them. You didn't miss a beat. So awesome, Matt. Thank you for closing us out here. I'll do a little closeout myself. Again, thank you for everyone who's listening now. Thank you for watching our last couple of podcasts as well, where we had our fellow coworker Rickson join us. So that's one of our most popular videos. I strongly recommend anybody that's especially interested in college soccer. Also, me and Matt predicted the future with what's going on in Florida, right, Matt?
Oh
Um,
yeah, man. That
so
was awesome.
so if
That was
anyone wants
literally,
to,
sorry, just a shout out real quick. Thank you, because you threw it to me real quick. Yeah, we last week we were talking about trademarks and when do you start, protecting your name, image, and likeness, because now college athletes can do it. And just yesterday, the Florida High School Athletic Association voted and is now allowing high school athletes to be compensated for their name, image, and likeness. So soon everyone will follow suit, but we had predicted it last week on our podcast. It was coming. We just didn't know how fast it would come. So let's go get lottery tickets.
yeah, exactly. So we're I think we should buy at least 50 just to make sure we get one of the $1 million prizes, Matt.
I think you just spelled out a really great competition for Friday for us.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah.
All right,
So lottery
awesome.
ticket challenge. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, again, thanks for everyone joining us on this lovely Wednesday. The next podcast, we're gonna probably involve just some other topics involving building your perfect team, your A team in this case. Some things we'll go through, which I wish we could have gone through. We just ran out of time today, which is, conducting maybe a good hiring process and assigning people to the hiring process for interviews. Also, looking out for some recruitment channels, whether it be job boards, social media posts, look, perfecting your Indeed presence so that you can hire good employees, and some other things we want to talk about maybe on our next podcast. So look forward to that. Joining us next week on every single Wednesday. We record these podcasts, so look forward to everyone being posted every week. So thank you again for listening, and have a great day.